Could you just start off with the audience and just explain, like, what is a red light device? Why should we be even interested in these devices?
I mean, I think probably for a lot of your audience, red light therapy is increasingly becoming kind of a buzzword outside of a relatively small but thriving niche slash nerdy sector of biohackers and other people who discovered this quite a while back. And the research actually goes back decades. It's only now that we're getting commercially available solutions that are within the price point that people could sort of could afford and therefore to consider purchasing. So red light therapy is typically used to cover both what's called red light, which is just visible red light, but also near infrared light. And I think that there's a lot of confusion around the term red light therapy, in part because of this, because also a lot of cosmetic devices currently are flooding the market, and they are only red light and not near infrared, which is in flex beam and the professional grade panel, for example. So maybe that's a starting point to try to go into the light a little bit and try to clarify this a little bit.
Yes, please. Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah. So red light in cosmetics, and the reason why it has like vast cosmetic applications is because red light is clearly shown in studies to promote collagen production in the skin and elastin production in the skin. So with a certain kind of output, not too much, when the red light doesn't need so much, close to the surface, you can generate a lot of positive skin healing effects over time. So this is an obvious cosmetic application. I think with our device, it's really focused on deep healing and being able to penetrate the tissue. And this is the crux of light therapy. It's about wavelengths, right? There's a certain part of the spectrum, the whole electromagnetic spectrum, that's clearly shown to resonate with the body in a certain way. There's certain frequencies or bandwidths of light where the body responds. So at the skin level with red light, in terms of the just the sort of surface layer penetration, but near infrared is a wavelength that is longer than that we can see it, but not so long it doesn't get shut out from the body. It has just the right wavelength to make it penetrate the skin. And this is a very, very powerful application. If you have kind of the right device and you use it the right way, you can penetrate quite deep into your muscles and tissue, so deep below the skin. With our device, we are estimating around 3 inches typically for like the most high power setting. And this enables you to target cells underneath the skin. And the reason this is really important is the main mechanism is mitochondria in your cells. And some of your listeners may be familiar with this term, which is also buzzing around a lot of these days from maybe one time the biology textbooks, kind of sort of that some people may remember. The mitochondria are the organelles in your cells, a part of your cell, which has a fascinating history on its own that we can nerd around with if the time comes. But the crucial thing about mitochondria is they are responsible for energy production in the cells, like very broadly speaking. So they're often referred to as the powerhouse or the generator of the cell. And what the studies are showing is that the mitochondria respond to near infrared wavelengths by producing more energy. So if you think of what your cells are actually doing on a regular basis, they're responsible for repairing and healing and recovering. It's a constant sort of repair cycle machine, right, that we have in every single cell, and the mitochondria are the energy generators of this. And that means that when they do get stimulated this way, they can substantially improve their efficiency, right? So both improve efficiency, and there are also some studies showing you could produce new mitochondria, so you can gain mitochondrial mass. And that's why also red light therapy is crucial in sectors like longevity, for example, which is another big topic these days because of the link to mitochondrial health. Generally speaking, if you have stronger mitochondria, you have more resilience and you can also live better and longer. So that's at least the starting mechanism.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Let's dig into some of that. So, are you familiar with Gary Brecker? He's big on the red
Yeah,
light scene at the moment,
I
and he
met him
says,
last year in
"Oh, okay.
London. Yeah,
Oh, cool.
he has
Okay.
one of these now too.
Very
He's
good. Okay. Well, he
yeah.
was talking about there's like 16 times increase in ATP production when he
What is it?
used the red light therapy. Which so could you break that down if you know anything about that? Or what does that really mean? And like, if we do see an increase in ATP, which is energy, right? Like, how long does that increase last for? Like, it's not lasting for days, right? So, like, what would be the benefits of ATP production and increasing?
So, I mean, this is a great question that I think, to be fair, we don't have enough research to answer so quantitatively. I think what
Okay.
Gary Brecka is referring to are some studies that show the effect, and trying to put this in perspective, that
Mhm.
we're talking about a significant boost to the cellular energy production short term upon being stimulated by the light. The real recovery process after you use FlexBeam, for example, for one day happens when you sleep and you get up the next day again, and so on. So it's the energy available to your cells increases after the session, and that available energy is then really put into recovery mode production when you sleep, if you're thinking
Mhm.
about deep healing. So it's really important that it's not a one treatment fixes all, but it's a consistent use over time. You can build up. Also, you can see in biomarkers over time and so on that it does actually affect the body at a systemic level.
Mhm. Okay. All right. So it's about that regular
That's a
treatment.
regular use when you're talking
Makes
about
sense.
something about like the mitochondrial
Yes.
effect. So immediately, for someone who is struggling with fatigue or low energy, generally speaking, will often experience a session or two with FlexBeam or a red light therapy device that has enough power,
Mhm.
is like to feel kind of energized after, because the more available energy is there.
Gotcha.
But here the results will sort of vary.
Okay.
So when Gary talks about 16x, it doesn't translate into 16x faster recovery as such, but you are
Mhm.
getting a boost.
You're getting a boost. Okay. I'd love to talk about the eyes. So I'm 43 this year. I can
Mhm.
definitely feel like with all the screen time, my eyes are getting more tired.
Yeah.
When I got the Flex Beam, it had the little black covers, but yeah, I'm seeing stuff online about people talking about the red light therapy actually is good for eyes now. So could you just try and help us understand that piece a little bit?
Yeah, that's some of the more exciting new research is coming out and being replicated, showing positive effect of red light on the cornea. So to heal the cornea. Exactly why is not so clear, but in a similar way to skin, you can imagine that the eyes are a very porous kind of surface, and that you don't need a lot of penetration in order to be able to stimulate something. That being said, this is relatively recent evidence. We don't have on the market a specific device for eyes. We don't know the exact dosage that is required for eyes. What the medical doctor, who's one of my co-founders on staff and who's like really keeping track of all this research, is showing, so the indication is it's a relatively small dose. So blasting red lights in the eyes can also have the opposite effect, can be damaging. So in this case, I believe in our membership program, we have some sort of cautionary and some general guidelines for this, but it's not an application that we recommend you just pick up the device and stare for 10 minutes, because
Sure.
it's so recent and there's not enough research on it. But the
Okay.
promise is definitely there, and it's important that this is red light and not near infrared when it comes to the eyes.
Okay. And so
Yeah.
it's one of these spaces to keep a lookout on, but like just probably don't shove it in your face right now, is what you're saying. Wait for the
Yeah, I
research.
think
Yeah.
everything around the eyes, and we have a
Yeah.
similar, the only sort of body part we say you should be very careful and not use FlexBeam on is your brain.
Oh,
Not for the same reason as with the eyes, but just because the brain also is a very highly electromagnetic organ that would require a very different kind of precision and dosage in order to
yeah.
hit it optimally. And there's a lot of research in this field as well, but the brain is infinitely more complex than the rest of your body. So therefore, there's not enough research yet to show exactly where it should be put with what dosage, etc., to be like a potentially really, really helpful kind of therapy. But we just advise caution about that for now. I see there's some devices in the market still very experimental, and most of them have in common they have relatively low output just to be on the safe side.
Sure. Okay.
Whether they really work or not is too early for us to tell.
Okay. I mean, like
Yeah.
you say, it's an emerging field. It's really exciting that all of this, but at the same time, I know there's a lot of evidence out there. If you don't want to mention this bit, we can delete it out, but I would love to get your thoughts on red light therapy and use on genitals.
Genitals. So you were going straight into all of the more experimental and
Sure.
buzzworthy kind
Yeah.
of applications. Before we maybe get into the standard ones,
Yes.
this is another big one that generates a lot of question and interest, and that our doctor has also done several case studies and followed, and we have a sort of protocol for this for testosterone boost through red light therapy. Yes, it is possible, it seems, from the use cases. There also, we advise relatively small dosage specifically because of the organ nature of it. I think if a key thing to keep in mind is that your mitochondria are in all your cells, but they're particularly packed in organs. So something like your testicles will have a lot of mitochondria. So will your lungs, for example, your kidneys. So being able to shine a light sort of very locally and targeted there with the right wavelengths can also produce a significant response. So with testosterone, I know our doctor's working on like more case studies to devise the protocol and get more feedback. But initially, that is also one of those exceptions to the general rule of 10 to 20 minutes, where we
No.
advise something like far more like a smaller stimulus, I would say,
Okay, that makes
to get
sense.
safely
Yeah.
better results.
Okay. So
But
so
something
again,
does seem to happen, like for people who use it, and that you can show over time, it does actually show effect on testosterone levels. But again, very careful, like you have to be
yes.
very careful about the protocol.
Yes. I have done it, and my testosterone is pretty good. I don't know
Okay.
if it's linked directly to that. We also had a baby while I was doing it before,
Okay.
and I think it may have helped, or not. I don't know, but
Mhm.
yeah, because interestingly, like when I had tests done years ago, so it's going to be very hard for you to conceive a child. But we had no problems. I don't know if the red light helped or not, but we were doing all of these protocols. But anyway, it's
Okay.
a fun
Interesting.
side thing.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on like how does red light therapy affect tumors and that sort of thing and cancer growth? Is it useful, harmful? Does it depend on the particular kind of growth? Could you share any information you know there? Just going to pause the podcast for a second. I'm super excited to share that our 7-day breathwork reset program or burnout reset program is for a limited time completely free. I've been running this course for about a year. We've had amazing results. And it's designed for you if you are tired and exhausted and you've got no time. So the less time, the better. It's only 7 minutes a day, this course, and it's a 7-day program, and it's designed to build habits, healthy, sustainable habits using the breath. And so I wanted to make it accessible to you for a period of time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching this podcast. So the link's down below. It's a professionally edited and put together course. It's all held in a lovely place, and you get to keep it for life as well. So grab the link below. And my suggestion is this: if you're going to do it, then do it. Don't put it off. Don't grab the link and think I'll do that next week. It's only 7 minutes. So I would get the link, and then after this podcast, after you finish watching it, get signed up, get enrolled, and just do the exercises that I send you each and every day and have fun with it. And I promise you, at the end of the 7 days, you'll be a different person to who you are watching this video right now. So the link's down below. It's only free for a limited time. It's usually about $77 to $97. We play with the price a little bit, but I wanted to give you a little gift. So link's down there. Grab it, and let's get back on with the show. Cheers.
This is another, now we're like almost through the list, I think, of things where we have special either cautions or exceptions. Cancer treatment, not enough research to show conclusively. There are some studies that indicate in early tumors that it may have a positive effect. We haven't seen enough to substantiate it. And there is simply also a dearth of evidence because it's very hard to get research ethics approval for studies on cancers, especially late stage cancers. And this is why a lot of people with like who unfortunately are struggling with cancer, it's hard to get clear answers. The general advice we're leaning on here for what is sort of accepted the research is that if you have late stage, do not at any point talk to your doctor, because we simply do not know enough. And it's a similar kind of restriction around pregnant women for a similar reason, because you're not allowed to do research on pregnant women. So there is no research to indicate the safety, and therefore we cannot say that it's safe. We have nothing to indicate it's not safe, but we also don't have enough to say, go ahead. So there also we generally advise caution.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I remember when my wife was pregnant, she wasn't even allowed to get a massage,
Yeah.
around that area, because they're just, people are so cautious for obviously the right reasons. So let's jump into some of the more mainstream use then of flex beam. So like, if I presented to you and said, look, Bjorn, I'm really tired all the time, I'm exhausted. Like, how could the flex beam like help me, or how could red light help me deal with some of that fatigue?
Yeah, and so this would be, 99.9% of use cases are on this side of the spectrum in which it's very safe and accessible. And I appreciate we started off by like basically going through all of the more experimental and interesting and cautionary sort of approaches to it. But for anything musculoskeletal, it's clearly shown that red light therapy can have several significant effects. The best studied link that has been there for decades, first with lasers and then with LED lights, is reduction of inflammation. So inflammation reduction is key to a lot of physiological variables, like for better health, generally speaking, and also pain reduction associated, also very strongly shown in studies. The muscle repair recovery element, I think, is picking up increasingly with both athletes and any active person who, if you experience anything like an injury or a strain or an ache or any such thing on any muscle part, a targeted red light therapy device or a specific treatment on that can be highly effective. The general stats that we see working with physiotherapists who are like using this on athletes and so on is, for us, say a pulled muscle, the consensus is around 30 to 40% improved recovery time. So for someone who's very active, that kind of boost can significantly impact your ability to recover, which again will have a positive effect on your performance, which in turn can have a positive effect on sleep, which again improves your recovery and performance. So it's kind of like a red light therapy is used by many as a way to kind of start a flywheel in your body a little bit, with all of the different like recovery factors that are at work. That it's a boost that starts a chain and a cycle, and then for every sleep you get a little bit better, a little bit stronger, and you do it again, and so on.
Yeah.
So for musculoskeletal things, there's very broad applications.
Okay. And I remember reading this in the booklet 4 years ago, so I'm sure the science has updated since, but I remember reading something like you should do the red light every other day. Is that still the protocol, or is it okay to do red light therapy every day?
Yeah, that I can't recall if we had that 4 years ago. The general, it's to take occasional breaks is our
Right.
main guideline. So every day for several consecutive days, 3-4 days in, maybe 1 day break, and so on. I think a lot of the protocols that Dr. Julia Frost, our co-founder and doctor, is advising is a typical, just to make it easier for people, is Monday to Friday on, weekend off is one sort of simple rule to memorize. And the breaks are important to occasionally, just for the body to readapt itself so that it doesn't actually over-adapt to the light. Dosage is absolutely key to getting results in red light therapy. So it's very important to understand that this is not something that more is better. It's about getting that particular kind of dosage window that stimulates the cells. It actually creates something called a hormetic stress response in the cells, which is what also happens if you do a cold plunge or you do an exercise of some kind. Your cells are momentarily stressed, and it's from that they bounce back more strongly. They need to recover, more energy is channeled to this area, and so on. So this is a good kind of stress that you're doing. But if you just blast red light all day and like use it too much, then basically you don't get a result. Like what happens isn't that you get too much as in you overdose, you simply do not get the response in your body that you want. So it's a little bit analogous to going, hardcore training at the gym, something, you go through that whole session, and then you go back and do it 3 more times after you already kind of hit your limit. Is that going to make you stronger in the coming days? No problem. No, not really, right? You're already kind of stretched out. The window of stress is already over. And in a similar way, more red light is not necessarily better.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, because I think I have this mentality. It's like go hard or go home, and it's just like do as much as you can of something. Have you seen any benefits to using red light pre-workout before you go off and do something physical, or is it
Yeah,
always
both
post?
have been shown to be beneficial in our
Mhm.
studies. So especially working with athletes, we see like some tend to use it before to warm up or have more energy for like a particular muscle area, like runners first before a run, for example, report back that they, and this is something we want to study more in detail, like in larger trials, but the user reports back is that improves the lactic acid response. For example, you have more give in the muscles before a strenuous exercise or before some sort of competition. But the most common use of it is after, to facilitate recovery. I think Dr. Zulia has also created a protocol where you do it, like you can do both, but then you split like one session before and one session after. All the studies show that either can work. It depends a little bit on what your use case is and what you are looking to gain from it.
Sure. And if I had a shoulder injury and I was doing 5 out of 7 days on the shoulder, and then I had like a foot injury, could I go from 5 days of that and then now it's time to take a break for 2 days, but could I start doing something on my foot, or is it take a break from the entire body for 2 days?
Like if you used it a lot over consecutive days, you are going to get better results if you take a break of a day or two before you move to any other body part, just to really eliminate it. That being said, we do see a lot of users that use it like for weeks straight and still get a favorable response. So there's no hard and fast rules about after 5 days you have to cut it off. In some cases, it can be a week or 2 weeks. In some cases, 3 to 4 days. This is one of those aspects that we continue to do research on this to fine-tune it. It's very hard because people are so different, and different body states and different health states require a little bit of different dosing over time. So take it as like, we try to create it as a rule of thumb, the 5 days on and so on. The general principle is occasionally use breaks, because if you keep using and using and using, you're just kind of not getting the full effect of it.
Yes, that
The
makes sense.
optimal effect.
What I love to do, as you're already probably getting a sense, is like I want to know the basics and I want to understand the science, but I also like to delve into the fringe a little bit. So I'm gonna prod you a little
Sure.
bit on some fringe stuff. So are you familiar with a practice called Qigong, which is like a breathwork practice, ancient Chinese practice? One of the
Yeah, I am.
things they do there, I forget the name. I think it's called golden. Might be called like golden saliva, but basically what they do is they will go and do their qigong in the morning, and they'll look out at the sun, and they'll put some saliva on their mouth, and they stick the tongue out, and they'll let the sunshine hit it, and then they swallow this golden nectar in. Is there any benefits of red light therapy in the mouth, on the tongue, on the teeth, anything there that you can talk about?
Yeah, very interesting. We do have sort of protocols for tooth pain or anything jaw related. It can be beneficial in terms of pain. In terms of actually providing energy to the mouth and to use it on the tongue, that's the first question I got. I would have to check with my sort of my doctor to see if we know of use cases for that. It's usually to heal something around the mouth, but I haven't heard about a usage that is for sort of for energy. Like if it is related to breath, right? A very like a very powerful way to use a flex beam, which is then like, because it's targeted and it's on the skin, means that you can penetrate more deeply than you can if you have light at a distance. Is to use it over your lungs. I don't know if you ever tried this yourself.
No, please explain this, because I was excited to hear about this one.
So if we go back to the near infrared wavelength penetration ability, like to be able to penetrate 2-3 inches in with our device, right? So and being able to stimulate mitochondria. So if you think about what you have, if you put it over the top of your lungs, This is like, even if you have bone in the way and so on, it's still open. That light is going to come into your lungs, right? And in your lungs, you probably have more mitochondria than most other organs because they're quite large. They're packed with mitochondria. And so, and we talked so far about mitochondria, which is the cellular effect. When you initiate a session like this, it also then creates sort of cascading reactions around locally. So one of the most studied and clearly demonstrated connections between red light therapy and the body is in oxygen uptake. So like increased oxygenation of the blood. Like this you could test if you have an oximeter, which you can get in a hospital. Sometimes they clip it on and they will show you oxygen level in your blood. This will demonstrably increase if you use red light therapy for a session, because it does improve local oxygenation and then circulation in the area. So if you're really focused on breath work, and you don't have any injuries or anything that you particularly would maybe use FlexBeam for, I think this, to optimize breathing over time and to improve your lung capacity, this could be a highly beneficial and effective way to use the device, to be able to reach into your lungs to improve them. We have, I'm going to check if we could create sort of a breathwork supporting protocol. What I do know we have a lot of is like recovering from respiratory illness, long COVID, etc. It has been shown to be very effective because it does improve the lungs capacity over time to both take in more oxygen and breathe more healthily, with all of the obvious benefits that has.
Wow. Can we dig into that a little bit more, because that's really fascinating. So how is that working then? So I understand you've talked about mitochondria and I think I remember I spoke to one of your reps once at like the Health Optimization Summit, and they were talking about nitric oxide, I think, possibly being improved. So can you just talk us through in a bit more detail, like how is that helping? Because we have a lot of long COVID people listening to this, asthmatics, and people just trying to improve their overall breathing. So yes, if you could break that down a bit more.
Yeah, so it's I will try, and I admit some of the like really details here from studies on all the different biomarkers. I read these papers and I don't understand like every single parameter
Sure.
that's involved in testing. But to take an example, that is a recent study done on footballers, for example, which I find to be particularly persuasive, because they used both a regular control group and one with a sham device that thought they got red light therapy, like a sort of classic randomized double-controlled setup. And they were testing for VO2 max, right? And this is the measure of which, like, your lung capacity at peak. That was broken down in by 4 quantitative parameters that together constitute sort of VO2 max estimate. This is a study, I mean, I can link it in your show notes if you'd like, just if people really want to have a look at, to see a particular kind of measurable benefit. So there, and this was kind of performance driven. It was like they would use red light therapy prior to doing like a major exertion, some kind, right? And on the whole, when you added these parameters, it had effect of, like, the red light therapy group had significantly better performance on all 4 parameters, but it was in the order of about 27% on average improvement on VO2 max prior to the exercise. These are numbers that even beat, like, going up to the mountains at high altitudes, like that kind of adaptation that some athletes do, or in a similar kind of ballpark. So if you use it as an index of the capability of red light therapy, it does show a very strong correlation. And mitochondria and VO2 max are linked. This is one of the learnings from, like, the doctors who really studied this very closely, and that I've learned from experts in the field, is if you want to measure how much mitochondria you have, then it's a little bit tricky to do so live. There are some new tests being developed, but usually how it is measured is by a biopsy, right? So, which is not like sort of an accessible, easy way to measure it. But they have demonstrated in studies that there is a link with like VO2 max is a kind of rough benchmark. So if your VO2 max improves, it generally means you have more mitochondrial mass or growth in your mitochondrial mass. This seems to be a sort of an established correlation. So therefore, it's also VO2 max is very interesting as a measure overall for your mitochondrial health. That being said, you're asking about specifics of how it actually works in the lungs, right?
Yeah, just any more understanding of like, because I'm guessing there's some vasodilation happening, some nitric
So
oxide. So just understanding a bit more about what's going on there. Yeah.
exactly. So it does increase vasodilation. Exactly. It's like, so you get an improved local circulation in that area. That is linked to increased oxygenation in the blood as well. It basically just flows more freely. That is also linked to reduction of inflammation, which is a clearly shown result over time. It is probably linked to this particular vasodilation and circulatory improvement that you get. So part of what's released, or certain hormones are released as part of that process, and nitric oxide is one of them. It improves something called reactive oxygen species, ROS, which is then, it's affected with red light therapy. This is considered one of the downstream effects of the mitochondrial stimulation, is to improve the efficiency of this reactive oxygen species, which is again linked to nitric oxide. Now, for me, to be honest, these terms are a little bit Greek because I don't have a chemist understanding of it, or biochemist understanding of it. But these are all pathways that are clearly established from the research that they're all affected positively with the right dosage.
Yeah. What's really, I'm really like laughing at myself because I've had this for years and I've never used it on my lungs, which is just like, be using it on my genitals and different areas, but never the lungs. So I'll give it a clean
Yeah,
and we'll
interesting.
do that.
Maybe you
Yeah.
can try.
Yeah.
We can get a sort of a basic guideline for you. You could try it for a few
That'd be
weeks and
amazing.
see. I mean, I imagine you would be like extremely attuned to your breath and
Yes.
notice impact over time.
Yeah, well, I'm very excited about my mother-in-law actually, because she had tuberculosis as a young girl, and so
Mm.
her pulse oxygen level sits around 93, and so it'd be very interesting to see if there's any way that goes up a little bit. I mean, she smokes and other things as well, but yeah, so this is very interesting, and we work with a lot of clients here, and we're always looking for like what other gadgets and gizmos can we recommend that they purchase to help them with their journey. Cool. Okay. Is there anything else on breathing? Because I want to talk about the gut next. Is there anything else breath related that we've not covered that might be worth discussing?
I think this general approach, I mean, presumably if you engage in breath work, you also have a broader sort of holistic wellness understanding of the body. You're literally affecting your physiology. So I think any breathing session, like with our device, for example, is designed so that you can just keep it close to you while you can do something else. So like for myself, when I do my own breath work and meditation in the morning, I like putting it over my gut because that generates a sort of a systemic response. So we have a couple of protocols for this, that if you just want an energy boost, I think you mentioned in your previous question, if people feel really fatigued, etc. Like probably the most effective place to put it is either over your gut or alongside your spine, especially lower and middle spine, because you have more energy pathways around along the spine. And in your gut, you have more light receptors and more mitochondria. And studies show also a clear correlation with improvement in gut health over time by using it. Your microbiome responds favorably to the light. So having a tool that allows you to penetrate deeply through the skin opens up sort of several different use cases or approaches to it that overall impacts your health positively. So for anyone engaging in breathing, I think these sort of systemic boost type approaches that you can get with a powerful device like this one, I think is a very, can be a sort of very good friend or an extra tool for your practice already.
Yes.
Mm.
I'm just thinking about our back now and how so for example, when people are laying on their back, they impact their lung capacity. because we breathe into our back as well as, you know, side and
Mhm.
stuff. So is there any benefits of having the red light therapy on the back of your lungs versus the front of your lungs? Is it, for example, do you penetrate more light this way, or is it equal, or you're not too sure?
You can get in both ways, and I know our doctor has for like particular lung protocols. You can reach it from
Okay.
both sides.
Yeah.
Uh, I think in general there's a little bit less in the way on the front than it is on the back, so you might
Okay.
get a deeper treatment.
Okay.
But you are also, in a way, if you do both, you are kind of getting at it from both angles. The
Okay.
penetration would not be complete, so it's not like it goes entirely through your body. It's more like you can reach in from either side and affect it. And the same goes for the liver, for example. It's like you can also reach it more from the side or the back, or from the front.
Okay.
No.
Interesting. And what about heart health? What about having some red light on your chest near your heart? Was there any studies or evidence there?
Less so around the heart.
Hmm.
Your heart is an electric, sort of like it's a really big muscle with a lot of
Hmm.
electromagnetism in it. So um, this is one of the areas that we would like to know more, but I haven't seen studies on cardiovascular effects beyond what you can see in sort of the bloodstream and so on.
Okay.
So we don't have any particular protocols for the heart
Okay.
specifically.
But would there be
But if you put it a typical use case like you have yours there, I've
yeah.
mine, if you put it vertically over your lungs, for example, you will
Hmm.
reach down the whole lung to heart area will be affected.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
So a bit on skin then. So I've got eczema. Eczema is really common with a lot of people these days. Any have you seen any correlation between? I mean, I've never used it for eczema, but any correlation between eczema and red light?
Yeah, then it's really about the red light, which is more like treating the surface.
Hmm.
So it's most effectively shown to heal wounds and so on. Like
Okay.
that's the clearest use case in which it makes a huge difference. With eczema, it depends. Unfortunately, we don't have a straight answer because some like eczema covers a whole range of different conditions, and it can be like whether it's just recent and fresh, it is likely to have more impact. If it's something that is kind of that you've had for a long time and it's more sort of genetic or chronic, you may need longer treatment. So some people report back, but here the message is a bit mixed. So you have to
Sure.
try, I think, just with full transparency that we don't know, like all skin disorders are not treated equally, so to speak, with red light. For some cases it will work, and other cases it may not.
Sure. So
Mm.
if we can talk panels versus like skin contact for a second, because I
Yeah.
remember hearing ages ago that like with the panel, like by the time the light's actually got to your skin, you know, it might be, you know, 60 centimeters away. You've lost so much energy by that point. But there's something very appealing about being able to just sit naked and put the panel on and just, you know, feel bathed in light. So what are the kind of big pros and cons? Are there any pros to having the big panels? Do you use the big panels, or are you specifically targeting the red light?
No, I mean, this is something we're very concerned with. When we started our company 6 years ago, we saw on the market there were already lots of panels
Mm.
out on the market. But we took a very hardcore physics approach to it and try to calculate what is the actual energy you get from the light source. And when you run these calculations like that, you are 3, 4, 5 inches away, or 10, 15 centimeters, or as much as 60, you've
Mhm.
lost a really significant part of the energy. Already at 10, 15 centimeters, it's already significantly less effective. So that's why a lot of the readings and the measurements on panels, like they vary a bit in terms of how to define how far away your skin is, how much you actually get. Uh, and this is why, for example, we are very skeptical of trends like putting just red light into a room, for example, or even integrating near infrared into saunas, which may be beneficial. But honestly, it's so far away, and unless you have like a Weber grill kind of output level of that bulb, that it's so fiery, like the energy is simply not going to be able to penetrate your skin and actually do the work that it's supposed to do. So that's why our design approach was to get something like to design from scratch something that could go straight on the skin. In order to achieve better penetration, in order to do this, it's more difficult than creating a panel. Like a panel is very easy to produce, all right, because it's just flat and it's a lot of bulbs. But to actually get closer to the human body and you can wear it, you do need to put fans in to cool it down. You need to design it a certain way, otherwise it will be too hot to wear. So that's why a lot of our design work went into creating a device that you can wear on the skin comfortably without getting hot, and therefore you get the maximum effect. So in terms of penetration, if your light panels around you are powerful enough, and a lot of the high-end professional grade panels will have very powerful lights, and your distance is relatively consistent and not very far off, you will also achieve penetration, relatively deep penetration. But I see most typical use cases of panels with a certain distance, and some are maybe also weaker. I think panels are more effective for skin health if you're going to use full body panels, because you can do your whole body at once. If you're interested in what I think is really the core of this is the near infrared dosage to stimulate your mitochondria, there's no particular reason why you need to treat your whole body, because you need to treat an area in which the energy is basically taken up, and everything in your body will circulate. So there's, for example, a study that shows like red light therapy treatment on the right hand will increase oxygenation in the left hand, right? So it does have a local effect, but your whole body is a circulatory system. So getting a dose of energy at your core, over your lungs, or somewhere for, let's say, a 20-minute session, you achieve the same kind of systemic boost response that you would otherwise from having large panels.
Gotcha. That makes
Yeah.
sense. So let's just take let's say I've got a shoulder injury right now, and I really want to use a device on that. And I think generally it's broken down into like 10-minute cycles on the flex beam. So
Yep.
like whenever I've used this in the past, or my dad had knee surgery recently, so I lent him a flex beam and he had it around his knee before and after and all this sort of stuff. I normally would go for like 3 doses. Like how would you like recommend like how long to like let's say I've hurt my shoulder in the gym, would you say 1 dose is enough a day, or would you recommend doing a couple?
I think we have a shoulder repair protocol
Okay.
specifically that would typically go up to 30 minutes. If it's an injury, if it's acute, it's giving you pain, and you have to sort of kickstart the recovery process. If you never used red light therapy before, and like it's your first time using it, it can be a good idea to start with 10 minutes and then go to 20 and so on. But I think most of the protocols to really repair and to often like to get more than one placement, for example, will take you to 20, 30 minutes.
Gotcha.
And that would be the typical use case.
Okay. And so let's just say, and this is like a real case study. So I have got a sore shoulders. I want to do the breathwork protocol now. I would also like to do something on my gut. So like, how would that look? Would it be like 30, 30, 30? Or would you say, look, don't do all 3 in one day, break it up? Like,
Yeah.
because like we've all
I
got
mean,
all these goals, right? And we all want to do different things. I'm just curious, like, how would you structure something like that if you've got multiple areas you're looking to target?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Mike, and we get this increasingly because there's so many use cases, and you could say in a way it's like one of the challenges by operating like a red light therapy device, if you want to use it optimally, is you cannot maybe do everything that it could do at one time. So to focus on one particular application at the time is the general advice we would have. Obviously, like if you really stubbed your toe or hurt your ankle, but you're really after the shoulder and you put 10 minutes on the ankle, it's not like it will like ruin the effect. But if you have a treatment program for like your legs, for example, or you want to use it for your gut health and or lung, etc., try to follow a protocol that doesn't take you much more than 30, 40 minutes a day with occasional breaks anyway. So depending on how complex it is and how many positions, you may have to focus on one or 2 things at the time and not to use it all over the body
Okay,
at the
that
same
makes
time in
sense.
order to stay within that optimal dosing window.
Sure. And the optimal dosing window is about 40 minutes then? Or is that what we're approximately?
It's between 10 to 40, really,
10 to
depending on
40.
what it is. Like 40 is typically I think the max that we set in our protocols typically, and then it involves multiple placements. So in most cases, for anything sort of basic musculoskeletal like a pulled muscle or even a gut health protocol, often 10 to 20 minutes is enough, and you can slowly increase, right? It's just that when you hit the 1 hour mark or 2 hour, like if your flex beam runs out of battery because you're using it so much, it's itself a sign that like then you're probably not getting the optimal effect.
Okay, that's good to know. So let's just take the shoulders as a good example then. So
Yeah,
I'm doing some shoulder
very common.
work. I
Yeah.
hurt both my shoulders. If I use the flex beam only on one side, like realistic, and I know like this is going to vary case by case, but like what would be the actual like benefits overall? Like, would you say it's going to be like twice as quick to recover? You know, like you see what I'm saying? If I've got like two injuries and I flex beam one, but I don't flex beam the other, like what would you typically say is the benefits of like using the flex beam for recovery? Or what would it do in terms of like speeding up that recovery?
Okay, so is this injury in this case is like an overstretched or overpulled, like
Yeah,
pulled
like a pulled
muscle or
muscle or something. Yeah, you've
pulled
got some
muscle?
pain. Yeah, just something, whatever is an easy example. But I'm just curious to go,
Yep.
you know, because there's a question is like a so what question. Because some
Yep.
people might say, well, it's going to heal anyway. But yes, but if we use red light, this is
Mm-hmm.
going to happen. So I'm just wondering, like, what's the this that's going to happen if we use it?
Okay, I got you. Generally speaking, 30% faster recovery time is what, like a pulled muscle, for example. That's what we like see a lot observed in physiotherapy, up to 40%. But like a shave off a third of your recovery time. If you use it on, let's say you then, in an amazing way, manage to injure both your shoulders at the same time, and you use flex beam only on one side and you let the other one sort of heal without any particular tool, you would likely experience that the left side, if that's what you use flex beam on, would heal more quickly, but also that it would feel more loose, like it would improve the stiffness around the area. So overall, which is kind of part of the healing effect, but the whole circulatory area around that, you would more quickly be able to kind of use it again and move it, like, and gain mobility. And this, in a way, is that flywheel I talked about earlier, a little bit of that positive circulatory effect, because you use it there for maybe 10, 20 minutes, you improve mobility on the shoulder, and by being able to do a little bit of extra sort of exercise and mobility, you are therefore also improving the recovery of the muscle, right? To get it back into its normal shape. And then the recovery happens when you sleep, also very importantly. The red light, like the near-infrared light, will function as a signaling effect to the body also that this is where energy has to go. Like this is an area that is like in need of more repair and attention. So in terms of your left versus right after a few days' time, in most cases, you would sort of start noticing the difference, that the two are very, very different. Twice as fast we have seen like those kinds of recovery times, but they're not that common. It's more like a third, quarter, third. And either way, like that is about the time. And then it's also about the energy in your muscle that you gained and like being able to perform again, etc. Right? So it depends a little bit on how you might, if the only focus is shortening your recovery time, that is one aspect. But if you qualitatively want to improve the performance of the muscle after that recovery, then I think you're also going to feel the difference between these
Sure.
two
Okay.
hypothetical shoulders. You know?
That makes sense. I'm conscious of our time. It's gone so fast, and I've got a few other questions I want to just chuck at you. But before I get into some of the more fringy stuff again, anything on diaphragm and red light therapy? Because I know, like, as we age, our diaphragms atrophy and they get weaker. Would this penetrate the diaphragm? Have you seen any evidence, or have you ever spoke about diaphragm cases with red light?
Very interesting question. That is also something I would actually have to look into to see if we have. I have not seen them
Okay.
myself on diaphragm specifically.
Yeah.
All of things related to breathing are more focused on the lungs,
Yes.
but it could be.
Yeah, interesting.
For
Because
sure.
the other thing that we struggle with is the stiffness of the rib cage. Because as we
Mm.
age, the rib cage becomes more brittle and stiff, and the muscles don't move as well, and we end up
Yeah.
suffocating the rib cage. So again, I'm thinking this would be a good device to help keep that muscle between the ribs supple.
Yeah, I mean, the musculoskeletal is the
Hmm.
primary function that we see, but like benefits of almost all applications. But there is research to show that it impacts bone healing
Hmm.
positively. Also, stem cell generation is something that
Okay.
happens when you use it. So bone healing specifically, it can be used for, and your diaphragm is relatively close to the surface, so you should be able
Yes.
to reach it. So, I mean, in theory, yes, I'd have
Okay.
to look into if there
Yeah.
are any particular case
Curious.
studies on it. Very
Okay.
interesting.
So a couple of other bits then. If we step a little bit away from flex beam, but I want to
Yeah.
just talk around light with you for a second. So we had Dr. Jack Cruz on. We mentioned it before we hit record. He told me to get a UVA and a UVB bulb from the pet store and have them in my house to get some vitamin D. What are your thoughts on some of that? Is that crazy, or is there some evidence to that?
We see devices like this have emerged on the market. It's something that we had as part of our R&D in the early days when we developed our first sort of line of potential products with vitamin D. We opted not to go further down that road for actually put something into development. We had a prototype developed that would basically be vitamin D boosting, following the same principles as he outlined. There is a lot of potential regulatory restrictions around it because UV and anything related to cancer and so on, meaning that it's highly experimental. I think it's very, very interesting research that clearly shows the link. But for us, as sort of a startup that wants to get something to market, it looked like a path that would take a considerable time and a lot of bureaucracy to be able to clear, to be able to do it properly. But in the last couple of years, I've seen a couple of devices that like are selling online that have the same kind of effect.
Okay, interesting. So
Some kind
there
of
is
application.
some science there. And what are your thoughts on LEDs in general and just indoor lights? Because there seems to be a whole fringe movement now around how our artificial light might actually be really bad for us, and our cells don't really know how to handle this alien sun, as Jack Cruz would call it. So what's your thought? I mean, you and I are both indoors right now. We've both got artificial light on us for this
Mm-hmm.
podcast. What's your thought on all of that area?
I mean, I share the overall concern. If we look at it in the big picture, the sort of the LED revolution happened very, very quickly, and in a very short time span, all of the artificial light around us got changed. And it got changed based on energy efficiency requirements, etc. And they were not really ever tested for exposure on humans. Some of them have very short and stunted kind of wavelengths. If you look at the actual wavelength profile of a lot of LEDs, they are basically optimized to be energy efficient. So you could take a dark view and say that this is not really test that we are living through a health experiment by being exposed to these lights. And to some degree, I think that I share the concern over this, and especially with a lot of indoor artificial lighting. That said, I think it's important to remember, and we're talking about blue light, which is sort of often seen to be a culprit. Blue light is peaking in daytime under the sun and you need a considerable sort of dose at a time of day when you are not exposed to any other light source in order for it to really, I think, significantly disrupt your cycle or circadian rhythm. So like we are sitting here now in the middle of the day, and there's one light bulb here and there's a couple of over me, etc. I haven't seen anything compelling to suggest that just being surrounded by blue lights in daylight has any particular adverse effects. But it can significantly change or alter or disrupt something closer to bedtime or closer to wake time when it's already dark. And then the general effect of like specific light sources and stuff will kind of play in relatively more strongly, right? Because as a light source, they then proportionally cover they light up more, so they have more effect this way. The few sort of books I've read on, especially the research around circadian rhythm, I know some of the leading professors in this field are not 100% on board the sort of that suggesting it may be blown a little bit out of proportion. Like if you have a relatively low output screen device sometime in the evening, there has to be a considerable output in order for you to be really, really significantly altered. So there's a huge difference when you measure it on on yourself, for example, from a overhead ceiling lamp will have way more effect than a low level lamp near you. Your general cell phone, unless you turn it up to max, you have to sit in a very dark room and have it very close to your face in order for it to be like instantly disrupting, so on. So for myself, I don't know exactly where the line goes. I share the concern. I think it is a valid concern, but I can also see tendencies toward like exaggerating this into that it's so dangerous and lethal, which I don't see anything to support that. But I do see clearly the potential disruption that can happen around sleep time, and being very aware of artificial lights closer to bedtime or the last few hours of the day, especially when it's dark outside, that it can
Yes.
have a significant impact.
Oh, okay. So just a very last quick question on this then. Would you ever wear the light blocking glasses? I normally have them here to demonstrate, but we have like orange and red ones. Do you ever use anything like that?
Yeah, I used it in the past. I have a pair at home.
Okay.
At some I do find when I do my sleep readings and stuff, I did find tracking over time. It did improve my deep sleep. After a while, I got out of the habit. It wasn't a huge difference. So to me, I use it from time to time, but I often forget about it. I'm blessed. I generally sleep pretty well anyway.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm not after necessarily gaining the extra 5% or 2%. But I do think that there's definitely something to it if you use it the right way.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for that. Is there any last words you want to leave us with before we end the podcast, Bjorn? That's been
No,
wonderful.
thank you so much for sort of shining a light on this topic. And we could, of course, talk more about the sun, which is the source of all of this, but I know you covered in other episodes. Red and near infrared light is part of the sun's complete natural spectrum and the sort of the healing wavelengths of it. And if you want to learn more about any of the sort of scientific studies out there and more about specific use cases and so on, I encourage everyone to go to recharge.health, which is our website. It hosts a lot of different information, and also on FlexBeam, which is then our first product. And I want to thank you for taking a chance on us early 4 years ago when we just launched.
Yeah, I can't remember who told me about you, but I remember I was like, I'm all in, and it was
No,
great.
very
So
cool.
yeah,
And it's a
thank you.
one-of-a-kind thing, and we're seeing a lot of interest now increasingly. I think the general health awareness is growing. More people are making the connection to light. Only 5 years ago, when we went around and talked about this, people looked at us as lunatics, and now it's increasingly the connection is it's becoming clearer to people.
Yeah.
So thanks for the opportunity to share some knowledge on this.
No, thank you for all the work you're doing, and we'll link everybody to all of your links down below. So please, everyone, check the links, and hopefully we can do this again in the future, Bjorn. So thank you very much for your time today. Take care.
Thank you.
Cheers, everyone. Hey, thank you so much for sticking all the way through to the end of the podcast. I mean this so much. It means the world to me that you would watch this podcast, engage with it, and stick all the way through. So genuine thank you. You're the reason that we do these interviews. I love speaking to all these people and sharing this amazing info. And I hope you got something from it. If something did stand out for you, then please put a comment on the YouTube video, because it'll help embed it for you, but it'll also give somebody else something they can take away as well. And just while you're here, just a reminder that if you're exhausted, you've got any form of burnout, or you feel like you might be heading towards burnout, you've got some stress and anxiety, our 7-day burnout reset program is free for a limited time. And the only caveat I have, the only thing I'd say is, if you're going to do it, just do it. Don't delay, don't get it and then think I'll do it next month. Just do it. It's only 7 minutes a day, and I promise you'll feel different after 7 days. Each day I'm going to give you a different exercise to do. It's only a couple of minutes. At the end of the week, you will have felt all these different exercises that I've picked. I've chosen these amazing exercises, and you'll feel more relaxed, you'll feel calm, you'll hopefully sleep a little better, and you'll learn a few extra things about the breath as well. So the link's down below. We're normally charging nearly $100 for this. We're giving it away, just giving it away for free. So grab it while it is free, and I cannot wait to hear how you get on. If you're looking for something to do after this podcast, I would say get the course. I was going to give you a video to watch or something like that. Don't do that. Get the course, and I look forward to reading your comments below. All right, have a beautiful day, and just know that whatever state you're in right now, whatever led you to this podcast or this channel, know that there is hope out there, and that millions of people have shifted their lives, their mental health and their physical health And you too can do the same thing. And I believe in you and I trust you. All right. Take care. I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.